Welcome to Twisted Builds LLC podcast. This is the first one. So, I asked for opinions on my social media. I've been thinking about doing a podcast for roughly the last 6 months off and on. Just kind of toying with it in my mind, thinking, should I do it? Should I not do it? Mainly, a lot of it was devoting the time to actually go ahead and do it. I have a very, anyone who knows me personally knows I have a very crazy schedule. And because of that, I wasn't sure if I could devote the time to it. And it was one of those things where I really wanted to try. I mean, if this podcast fails, this podcast fails. But it's not going to be for a lack of at least giving it a good Hail Mary try and giving it a go. So the first few episodes are probably going to be on YouTube only. I am working on setting up the regular podcast channels as well, because my goal with this podcast is to not only do it on YouTube with video, but also do it audio as well. But because I have a Twisted Builds LLC YouTube channel, and this is going to be roughly within the Twisted Builds LLC scope, I figured I would do a video as well, because it would give me video content. Because as you guys being viewers know, within the last 2 years, I've been pretty bad with coming out with constant videos. I do apologize about that. As I said, my life is crazy, but I'm making a steadfast, devoted effort to actually get some content out on a semi-regular basis. So the goals of this podcast is pretty simple. It's not just gonna be Twisted Builds products or anything like that. So hopefully I didn't steer you sideways or turn you off or whatever. Right off the bat, it's not going to be just Twisted Builds products. So it's going to be builds as well. It is going to be. I'm going to try to keep it automotive related, but I also want to keep it up with current events as well. So in the automotive field and other areas of life, but and how it impacts us and so on and so forth. So but yes. So I'll be going over like my personal advancements with my business and with my business partners. I'll be going over builds, kind of like the build you see behind me, which is my S10. And if I look down, I'm controlling my camera with my smartphone, so I'm just kind of keeping an eye out what you guys see as well, just so you're aware. But yeah, so like Twisted Builds products and ideas for stuff coming up, and just like hurdles I run into and stuff like that. Behind the scenes look kind of more than what I've been feeding you guys, or not feeding, but giving you guys. Just more behind it, what's going on, why I do things the way I do them. Get your guys' input. See if if I'm always up for opinions and better ways of doing things and recommendations, I should have said, and so on and so forth. So it'll be about that. Builds, not just my builds either. I want to get friends involved. So I've got a few guys that are lined up to be guests, and I'll be doing that once this starts getting rolling a little bit more. As I said, this is the first episode, and the gears, if this takes me a different direction, it takes me a different direction. So just be, I guess the layout of the podcast may not be exactly the same all the time until I kind of get my handle on it. Just so you guys are aware. But I do want to get guests on. I want to get guests on, and I want to talk about their builds and their experiences. And that's another thing. I would love to talk about my experiences and all the crazy things I've done with friends and family and stuff like that as well. And just have this be this podcast be a platform to share those crazy stories. Because if anything, through life is all about the stories you make. And the stories that you've made with good friends. So I do plan on sharing a lot of that as well on this podcast, and we'll just see where it goes. I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna give my best effort at this. If I fail, I fail, but I'm definitely going to try, because I think this is gonna be a blast. I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna give you guys content to listen to and watch on YouTube. I'm going to try to do it weekly. I'm not going to guarantee like every Friday or every Thursday that the video is coming out. It's just going to be a matter of, because again, my life is crazy with how much stuff I have packed into it. So just because of that, I'm not going to guarantee what day it is until, again, I get a handle on it. I would love to get it to where there's a certain day that's going to come out. And then maybe get it down to like it's going to get released at a certain time in that day. We'll get there. But as I said, I'm going to just give this a go and we're going to go from there. So I guess I went over what this podcast is. I've got a list here of stuff I'm going through. Again, I'm going to get better at this, I promise. It's just going to take some practice. So, and as I said, the goals, talk about the business, talk about builds, talk with friends, share life experiences, the crazy things we're doing, the crazy things we have planned coming up, hurdles I'm going through with the business, family life, just whatever comes up that week. So I guess right now, because I gave you guys a video of the business update just recently, so I guess right now I'm going to go into the builds, because I talked to you guys I was going to make a builds video, and this first episode of this podcast is going to become a builds video. I'm not going to take you like I normally would around and show you guys what's going on, definitely because if I get this on audio you're not going to see it anyway, but give you guys a build update. So, Firebird, we'll start with the Firebird, because the Firebird is what kicked that being in this garage, because I'm sure you guys have seen, this is my house garage. So, the Firebird used to sit right there, and I got the Speeduino in it. It was my beta version of the Speeduino. I've got 4 of them out currently, if you include the one that's in the Firebird, or actually it's in my basement right now, I'm running tests on it. So, I've got 4 of them out there, including the Firebird one. We just got done installing one in Brian Rutsky's S10. My dad installed it. It runs good. It's got a couple issues. We're thinking it's wiring harness related. He used a junkyard wiring harness, which is fine. You can do that. I guess is probably the junkyard used the harness as a lift point, because it's just the thing's doing some oddball stuff. Where like my Firebird hasn't done any of that. So we're thinking it's harness related. As far as I'm aware, we're kind of leaving it be for right now, because I'm working on a solution, a permanent solution with the Speeduino. And again, my Firebird didn't have those issues. The bench test ones I've made and bench tested and thrown through the ringer hasn't had those issues. So I think it's just harness. Because when I was putting it on my simulator, the thing was working fine. Anyway, getting back on track. Hopefully I won't go on too many tangents, but maybe it's entertaining, so we'll find out. Got the Speeduino all tuned up in the Firebird. I teamed up with Low Dollar Motorsports. Whenever I start selling some other products like the 3.5-inch dash displays, me and David Smith, who's my business partner, he is based out of Texas. We're doing the Spoolie Boy boost controllers. I'm guessing you guys have seen those. Those things are amazing. He is working currently on prototyping the CO2 version of the Spoolie Boy. That one, we're using Low Dollar Motorsports sensors on it. So, and that's the same, like the Firebird, I just got done installing a Low Dollar Motorsports fuel pressure sensor and got all wired into the Spoolie Boy. I got one of their 4-bar map sensors for the Speeduino, which I do plan on releasing. That I'm going to go sideways a little bit. I do plan on releasing some of the, once I get everything finalized, like the 4-bar map sensor, the 3-bar map sensor from Low Dollar. He releases everything for the Holley information. I plan on releasing it as well for the Speeduino, and I think Megasquirt does it the same way as well. So that way people who are using Megasquirt products or the Speeduino family line of products will also have the calibration numbers for those sensors as well. And I'm going to provide them to Low Dollar as well. But getting back on track, I got those sensors in, the fuel pressure sensor, the map sensor, got the My Twisted Builds wideband installed. That thing is flawless. I love that thing to death. It's nice and crisp and smooth and works really well. Got that guy in. Got my little gauge pod set up and everything. I think I showed you guys all that on prior videos. Got it street tuned, or Mexican street tuned, I'll say, to about 10 psi, and that's where I was leaving it. I was getting it ready to go for more boost. I did. I ended up I tested the Spoolie Boy, and I got it up to like, I think it was like 19 pounds, which is what I was running before with the old Megasquirt 2. So it worked. The spoolie board works great. It has boost by time, and that's what I was using. I don't have the boost by input wired up. I just have it set up for boost by time, and well, I guess the boost by input is the boost by time because it's the same button. I apologize. Anyway, I have it set up for boost by time, and it would ramp right in over time perfectly. So I started at 10 pounds. And half a second into it, I was commanding the duty cycle because it's open loop to 15 pounds, and then 3/4 of a second or 750 milliseconds, I was going up to my target duty cycle to get the 18 to 19 pounds, and it worked flawless. The quick spool part works great. Everything there works perfect. The fail safes work good. Got it all going. Did some runs with it. I was like, okay, cool. So I actually dropped it back down to 10 pounds after I verified the spoolie board was working. Because what I wanted to do was I wanted to release some video, some awesome video of some smoking burnouts, running the boost controller through its paces, because the thing works flawlessly with the car. And I got greedy. So what happened was I got a buddy, Glenn Borton, and I'm sure he's going to correct me if I'm wrong if he watches this. He has an I want to say it's a 6-liter LS in his GMC Sonoma. Can't get that wrong. So GMC Sonoma that he runs. I don't know much about. He's told me what's in the motor. I do know it. I'm not going to release it just for the fact. I don't know if he wants that information released, so I'm not going to release it. But I know he's running a lot less. I believe it's a 6-liter. It could be a 5.3. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that. I know the rest of the setup, but I'm not going to release it. Just out of respect for him. But anyway, I know he was spinning his motors up to a dumb RPM and getting away with it. So my Firebird I had set up to 6,500 RPM. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to raise the rev limit a little bit. I want to take it up a little higher, rev it out a little bit, enjoy it. So I went ahead and upped the rev limiter to 7,100 RPM. I think it was 7,100, 7,200, something like that RPM. Yeah, the motor wasn't happy. Then it crossed my mind that, I'm using a Gen 3 block and crank with Gen 4 rods out of a different motor that I don't even know what motor they came out of. Again, Glenn Borton gave them to me. Got those rods and pistons in it, and it was a factory cam deal, a set of ported heads I ported in my basement behind the camera across the wall and the other side of the basement. And besides for that, it was nothing special. It was a Gen 3 intake, it's cathedral port heads. I was hitting it prior, I guess last summer, I was hitting it with 100 shot nitrous, but I wasn't hitting it this time. And again, I had the boost controller turned off, so it was only on 10 pounds. Because I want from 6,500 to the 70, I think it was like 7,200, part of the map, the fuel map wasn't tuned in. So I figured if I kept it down to 10 pounds, I could make sure I had enough fueling, which I purposely went a little rich on it, and the data log shows it was a little rich, so that was fine. But it just didn't like the RPM. I believe I spun a rod bearing. The thing cold. The thing cold doesn't make a knock noise or anything, but once you let it get up to a little bit the temperature gauge comes up to like maybe 140, and you can hear the rod knock. So I believe I kicked a rod bearing or something like that. I haven't taken it apart yet. I got everything to take it apart. I got a new oil pan just in case there was oil starvation. I did cut and weld that pan. It survived a few years the way it was. I don't know. It's very still possible because I was winging it higher that maybe I was sucking the pan dry. I run it over full for that reason. But when you're going from a 6,500 RPM rev limit, which I should have left it because it was like that for 3 seasons just fine. I'm kicking myself for it. To the 7,100, I think it was probably oil starvation is my guess, because the timing and everything was beyond safe. I'm running E70-ish. It was the flex. Oh, I got the flex fuel sensor in there and working, and the speedometer was fine with it. And so anyway, yeah, I got all that stuff figured out, got it running, and just raised the rev limit because I wanted to have a little bit higher of a rev limit for my burnouts, because that car will do burnouts for distance if you hold it in second gear at 6,500, but the time you flip into third, it just doesn't have, at least at 10 pounds, it didn't have enough oomph to keep it up there. I believe at 18 it would have. But I figured if I revved it a little higher, that'd get my shift point a little higher, and it'd allow me to keep the burnout through third gear for YouTube awesomeness. And because of that, I think I spun a rod bearing. So I got everything to put together. I got a new LS F-body oil pan from Drew Snyder. Thank you, Drew. I got oil pump from Justin Kramer. Bought it from him online. Thank you, Justin. I've got it. It looks great. Got everything to where I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I've got a 5.3, which apparently you guys can't see. Literally just past that one pole right there, there's a 5.3 sitting there. That, I'll be honest with you, I've been building for like close to 2 years now. It's just kind of been sitting there. And it's mostly together. It's got a reground cam in it from Delta Cams. It's a 5.3 just honed out, factory rings. I believe the gap's 2830 or no, sorry, 2832. I gapped them for decent boost. It's a Gen 3 motor. It's got Gen 3 rods and pistons, so I didn't want to go crazy with the gap because I'm not going to go crazy with the boost. That motor was planned for this truck originally. Plans have changed. But anyway, so that motor was planned for this truck. And because of the fact that I got my $300 all aluminum 6.2 liter from work out of a Cadillac Escalade that only needs head gaskets, lifters, and a cam to fix it, which it's another one of those things. When I was at work, I quoted out we could repair it. I mean, I do LS stuff all the time. So I was planning on fully repairing that engine. And management decided instead of repairing it, we were going to replace it. So I bought the core for $300. It's got 80,000 miles on it. Again, it had a lifter noise because one of the DoD lifters is starting to go out. So all aluminum 6.2 for $300. I wasn't letting that go anywhere. So I've got one. That's now going in the S10 because with a cam that will definitely make 500 horsepower or should. And that one will be great for drifting in that deal because I'm still tossing around the idea of turboing it. I know there's some people that are probably yelling at their computer right now because like, you don't need more than 500 horsepower to drift the truck. I know that, and I still may keep it naturally aspirated. I love the torque you get from a turbo, and I've thought about maybe doing a supercharger too. I haven't. Again, you'll find out definitely through this podcast, and the more I open up with you guys and gals, that my mind changes constantly. So right now, it's definitely that engine's going in that truck. It's definitely going to get a camshaft because I want it to sound good. And I may keep it naturally aspirated. If I do keep it naturally aspirated, it's at least going to get the nitrous kit out of the Firebird. I'll toss it into there. So that way I have something for power outer. But anyway, so that motor's going in that truck. My plan was at that point was like, okay, so I already have, at this point I had that engine before I blew up well, not blew up, but spun a connecting rod in the Firebird. So okay, so I've got this other engine that's pretty much ready to go. I literally brand new head gaskets, head bolts, because I had head bolts here, but most of them have been retorqued probably a few too many times. And I was like, you know what, I'll just get new head bolts. New head bolts, new gaskets, cam, double roller timing chain, the pack equivalent of valve springs. It's set up for boost. Okay, I'll put that in the Firebird and just keep the boost low. And then I got to think about it. I was like, what's the fun in that? Like seriously, I built that Firebird to have lots of boost and go. Well, I wouldn't say fast, but have fun with it for dirt cheap. And that was where okay, I got to thinking about it. I was like, that car hit its goal. That when I first went out to build that car, I wanted to get in Mike McCracken and anyone from Beaver Springs Management. If you're watching this, thank you, by the way. But my goal with that car when I first built it was I want to get kicked out of a drag strip. I want to go fast enough to where, for as little money as possible, to where I needed to put a roll cage in that car, and the required safety equipment. I wanted to see how cheap I could do it. I went 1097, I believe. It was either 1097 or 1093, 130 mile an hour in the quarter mile. And that was a night, that was last year, the last season. It's actually going off of my Facebook feed. It's been just over a year now that I did that. And I did that on 18 pounds of boost and 100 shot of nitrous. That was the first night of the Houdini racing they had at Beaver Springs Dragway. And I was with Myron Milliken. He's one of my best friends. And we were there racing. And, well, I was there for testing tune more than anything. Myron and I were going out, and I told him I want to get the car into the 10s. Because before that, I was running like a low 12, high 11 with a 2.2 60 foot. The car's got a factory torque converter in it because, again, I'm not made of money if you can't tell. So because of that, the car doesn't 60 foot at all. So that's when I installed the nitrous, and I was hitting it with a 100 shot right out of the hole. Like literally the second I let off the two-step, the nitrous was engaged. So, and I was hitting it with a 100 shot nitrous at like 1700 RPM. It might have been 2000, but somewhere in that window. And that brought my 60 foot down from a 2.2 to a 1.8. And working on the tune-up, I was able to get that car relatively consistent for the bracket race, and I dipped into the 10s, so I went 1097. The car was relatively going 11 seconds flat, but I did get into the 10s, I believe, twice. I think one time was a 1099, the other time was a 1097. I could be wrong on that, but I do know that one pass was a 1097. So, but anyway, at that point, I was in a bracket race because halfway through that night, they did the Houdini race was the 10 fastest cars on the premises that night. And I think I was number 8, I believe, which shocked me and Myron. It was one of those things like, oh my word, what? This car's garbage. I figured, because there's so many great cars that go to Beaver Springs, my hunk of junkyard scrap metal got into this. I was just shocked. So at that point, I was making the car consistent. So it was a nightmare because I kept blowing apart boost couplers. So I kept blowing apart the charge tube off of it, off the throttle body, and off of the intercooler. I kept popping them off because I didn't have any welded beads on them, which was my own stupidity. And I also didn't have very good couplers on it. They were the AutoZone or Advanced Auto Spectra couplers. So literally I would make a pass, get back into the pit, move all the pipes back in, tighten all the clamps back out, and go do it again. And then same thing, move all the pipes in, tighten the clamps up, and go do it again. And did that all night. Ended up getting second overall, or runner-up. The car made the first amount of money it's ever made that night. And which the whole night was an experience. I have it on my YouTube channel. You'll find it if you scroll down through. You'll see. I labeled that series the American Junkyard Dog because that's what that car is. It's just a junkyard dog. So that was the time it went 10. So if you want to watch those videos, you're more than welcome to, obviously. But that's when that car went 10s. And this year it was getting it like I redid all the couplers. I took and got VS Racing silicone couplers with actual T-bolt clamps, nice good clamps and everything, and great couplers. They're awesome, and it was relatively cheap. I took all the pipes apart, welded beads on them, so that way the hose clamp, even the T-bolt clamps, will have something to hold on to, and had it all back together. Redid a Spectra plastic elbow. Maybe the upcoming podcast video, I will grab that thing and show you guys. A plastic elbow I had at 22 psi for countless number of times. That thing held up great, but it was shocked the crap out of pretty much everyone I've told because it's a cheap plastic elbow. But the thing is the plastic elbow didn't have rips or ribs on the end to get a hold of the hose clamps and the silicone couplers. So I ended up having to get rid of that, and I did as good as I could pie cut of a bend, 90-degree bend. I was making sure there wasn't a flow restriction. So the outside, like the welding's not as pretty, but the inside is perfectly smooth through the bend to make sure there was not a flow restriction right there. So I had all that done, and then I'd go out and spin the rod bearing. So I was like, okay. The goal of that car was to go 10s or go to fast enough to where I got kicked out of that drag strip. That night, or not that night, the next time I went there, which was I think it was the first Pontiac Buick Oldsmobile race. The car's technically a Pontiac Firebird, so I went there and ran. I purposely slowed the car down because I knew I was going too fast. And I was approached by Mike McCracken, which is awesome. He's an awesome track owner, by the way. He came over and was like, hey, you need to slow the car down. I was like, yep, already did it. Alright, I didn't have the nitrous even turned on that day. I turned the boost down on it. I pulled a little bit of timing back. The car was running like a low 12. At that point, I was trying to be consistent. And, yeah, that's another story. I'll tell that a different day. But anyway, so I ran that day. I ended up getting... It was a bracket race. I ended up getting kicked out because I ran too fast because I got mad at the guy beside me and turned on my scramble boost button. Whoops. I broke out. So, anyway, the car did its thing. I got kicked. I mean, it wasn't that night, but I did get told that I had to slow the car down because it was going too fast. Which, again, thank you, Mike, for allowing me to do that all night. The night before, I know I probably shouldn't have been, so thank you. And yeah, so at that point, I like this, after I spun the rod bearing, I'm thinking to myself, I'm beating myself up, not really beating myself up, but I'm pushing hard to get an engine that's not quite adequate for that car into that car because I'm going to push it to the limit. Or not really the limit, but I'm going to push it because I love that car going fast. I've gotten so used to that at this point. And the car hit its goal. The car... I've got, with buying the car, looking at all the information I saved for like how much I spent on it, I got $4,000 in that car, including buying it. I bought the car for $700. It's all cheap stuff. It was either given to me, which wasn't a lot, mind you, or great deals. Like one of those things I was at the right place at the right time with money. So yeah, I know I have less than about $4,000 into that car. And the car went 10s at 130 miles an hour. That was another thing. The car's got 355 gears in it. I'm running 23. I don't remember. It's like a 26-inch drag radial, so it's not a very tall tire. It's I think it's a 235 60 16. I want to say. So it's not a very tall tire. I just was running out of gear. I've got 355s and the 8.8 behind it. And at 1,000 feet, that night that I went 10s, I was on the rev limiter at 1,000 feet. And I was just riding the rev limiter the rest of the way there. So the car had more in it. If I dropped down to like a 323, which I have that gear set here for that car, the car could easily, I'm sure, go maybe 132 or maybe more. I'm not sure. But it had more in it. And I was out of gear. So... And again, it's one of those things where I was like, okay, I hit my goal. The next goal for that car is 454 that is behind that S10 and going, probably boring and stroking it out to 498, going with twin something big from VS Racing and just going for dumb. So the car at that point is going to get safety equipment and everything like that. I'm going to do it right. So I'm going to probably back half the car, contemplating going 9-inch, doing something, or building up the 8.8 to take more power and going that way. And I know a lot of people are like, why don't you keep the LS? The LS is great. Don't get me wrong, it is. It's a very great platform, and I'm sticking to it. I'm putting an S10 in the S10, or sorry, I'm putting an LS in the S10. However, you can't beat displacement. I'm sorry. I don't care what anyone says. Definitely when you're turbocharging a larger displacement, you're going to make more power. There's no replacement for displacement. And when you add forced induction onto it, it just makes that engine act bigger. So, and I want to go for broke. So, once the S10 is done, that's what's going in the car. And that's where like this whole thing comes full circle. So like, why am I putting a 5.3 in that Firebird when I met its first goal of the car, which was to go get kicked out of a drag strip for going too fast with no safety equipment for as cheap as humanly possible? Or should I build the S10? because that's going to be I'm building it to where I'll pass safety inspection in PA, which is another reason why I may just go naturally aspirated. I could make a turbo pass too. It's just a lot more work, but make that pass state inspection so I can drive it around legally, and set that truck up for drifting. I've always wanted to get into drifting. It's a driver's skill. A lot of people think, oh, it's just sliding a car around. There's a lot behind that. I want to get into it very, very badly. I used to drift on dirt roads and stuff. I used to dirt track race a little too. But mainly I used to take roll drive stuff. That was just, again, $500 trucks and cars and stuff like that. A $500 S10. And just go sliding sideways on dirt roads. I loved it. It was the most amazing feeling. I want to do it on pavement. I want to do it on pavement on a closed course, mind you, which we have a couple locally here. And I want to do it with that truck. So I'd love to be able to drive there, drift, and then leave. Throw the jack and tires in the back of the bed if I need to, and whatever. So the body work that's been getting done to this, which I don't know if you can see or not. Let me look. Yeah. So right there's a big old hole cut in the floor. So the driver's side, I was posting photos on social media for a little bit, and I'm going to try to take more video of what I'm doing, but because there's not a lot of YouTube videos on how to do this, and I'm not a body man, so even though I'm going to be posting videos about this, I can guarantee you every one of them is going to be marked. This is probably not how you're supposed to do it. It's how I'm doing it, type deal. But I got the driver's side floor panel in, so same deal happened on the driver's side. There's a massive amount of rust on this S10 body, right where the front cab mount was, and right underneath the lower door mount. It was literally rotted right through the body. You could see, once you pulled the door off, you could see from the outside right into the body. So, pretty much, I cut a big old hole in the floor, and on both sides. The driver's side got done first. I'm working on the passenger side now. Got LMC truck panels and everything. So I got LMC truck floor panel on the driver's side. It got the excuse me. So the LMC truck floor panel. I had to make an inner rocker panel for it because factory on these first gen S10s, the floor pan is the inner rocker. So the floor pan, like you have the trans tunnel, then it comes out, and then the floor pan does this, and that becomes the inner rocker. They attach the outer rocker to it. So because of that, and they don't sell inner rockers or inner panels or anything, I had to make it. So thankfully I had a guy at work tell me about a welding shop that was near my work. I was able to swing by, left work a little early, swing by that night, pick up a sheet of, I think it's 14 gauge metal, 12 gauge, I can't remember. It's thicker metal. I have a friend of mine, Scott Linig. He is a body man that has been helping me with this. By the way, if you're watching this, Scott, thank you for answering all my questions throughout who knows when about doing body work, because I'm not a body man. But he said that was going to be a good grade of like thickness for safety reasons, so that's what I grabbed, because I want this to be safe. I have a wife, I have a son I'd like to come home to, so because of that I wanted to do it right. So I got the metal, made my inner, and I actually overlapped it, so like the inner on the driver's side is above the cut I made and above the lower door hinge area, so that way I give it all kinds of support right there. And then I attached my outer, did the inner, got the floor pan in and welded, then there's a support plate underneath the floor pan on the driver's side. Passenger side has one as well. That's really thick. I'd say it's like 3/16 metal that you can get from LMC truck. And then you have the the cab mount that mounts underneath that. So I did all that on the driver's side. And I just, that right there has been a forever project. It's finally done. And I'm actually making quick work of the passenger side now that I know what I'm doing. So, the great thing about this truck is for some unknown reason, the cab corners and the rocker panels are perfectly solid, which makes no sense to me because every S10 you see, the cab corner and the rear rocker panels rotted out. These ones are fine. So, I actually just cut I got a whole new rocker from LMC, and I cut it down just to meet up with the clean one I have in the back. I'm going to pause this for a second because my wife just got home, so I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. But as I said, so the rear rocker panel and cab corner are perfect on this thing. So I'm just cutting the LMC truck ones I got and mating them up there, butt welding them up, grinding them down, making them nice and even, and going from there. Originally, I was planning on this truck being not a show truck, but a really good looking truck, and I'm still trying to do that. My standards are starting to get a little bit lower because I just want to get the thing done, and I'll probably end up fixing it later. Because, as I don't know if you guys watch, I'm David Freiberger on the Motor Trend stuff. Don't get it right, get it running. So, I am going to take my time and get it right-ish. So, I mean, the body work is going to get good. I'm going to do all the critical stuff right. But a lot of this is like structural, so like all the welding and everything is right. It's right the first time being done. I'm hoping to hit it with, there's some kind of special filler that you can use that's not just regular body filler that I've been told about that I can use. It's like fiberglass infused or something. I'm going to use it for smoothing between the two rocker panels and making it look as best as I can. But again, I'm not a body man. This is not going to be a show truck. This is going to be a driver. I believe in driving my stuff. I don't believe in trailer queens. So, if this way, like if it gets a rock chip or anything driving around or whatever, I'm not like, oh my word type to it, because it's going to be a used truck. So, I'm going to not just use it, but probably abuse the snot of it too. So, still keeping the manual. Right now it's going to stay MV3500. I have a two-wheel drive one out in the back garage where the Firebird is now. That's going to be going in it. I'm sure I will probably grenade it at some point. I'm not 100% positive. At that point, my plan is to go with either a T56, which I know they're getting hard to find and most of them need rebuilt, or aftermarket of some sort. That'd be a save up type deal, save up and put trans in the truck. But for right now, the MV3500 will be fine. I know it's not that fast as shifting, but again, I'm not made of money. These are budget builds. I'm all about the budget build, and because of that, I have thankfully I had an old coworker that gave me a clutch and everything for this setup already. I already got the flywheel for it. I bought a brand new flywheel for it on deal, and I got the trans and everything, so I should have everything to make it go. And then I got an 8.8 that the same guy that gave me the clutch gave me I think he either gave it to me or I bought it from him, I can't remember. But I've got an 8.8 for it as well. Out of an Explorer, it's got 373s, that's limited slip. Your normal run-of-the-mill 8.8 swap. It's going to be going in it. This isn't even the frame. I've shown you guys on my YouTube channel. I'm putting a two-wheel drive frame underneath this four-wheel drive truck. Convert it over to two-wheel drive, I'll have that 6.2 in it. I'm going to keep a full interior in it for the most part. It's going to get carpet and everything. The rear trim panels and everything are going to go back in it. The only thing is I'm going to probably end up, I know a lot of people are going to scream at me, I'm going to get rid of the bench seat, and I'm probably going with 2 buckets with harnesses just because of the drifting and whatnot. So, plan on doing that. But besides for that, it's going to be the run-of-the-mill S10 build, maybe, I guess. I plan on 3-linking the back of them, getting rid of the leaf springs, going 3-link suspension on the rear. Probably just going to get a new fuel tank and everything because of keeping it legal for state inspection and not having to worry about it. So probably just be a regular fuel tank and everything, just modifying like a new hat or whatever to make it flow enough fuel. That one's going to be E85 compatible because the Speeduino stuff I'm building is as well. So that way I can either fill it with pump fuel or fill it with the E85 and have it just adjust the timing accordingly. Make more power when I'm on ethanol. But that's pretty much the build. And I plan on blacking absolutely everything out. Black wheels, black truck, black body, black interior. I plan on hitting it with some kind of maybe truck bed lining or something inside to keep the rust, because I'm doing all this work to get rid of the rust. I want to keep it that way. So this is going to be a bit of an endeavor. It's going to take some work. I've had the truck apart, I think, for over a year or maybe 2 now. It's been a bit. But I think it's just a year. But it's going to be a bit of an endeavor. So once the bodywork stuff is done, I got to fix the bed. The bed floor is getting soft. I told you guys I have the other 2nd gen bed. I'm not 100% sure if they're compatible, but I'm going to make it work. So I'm going to cut the bed floor out of this one and cut the bed floor out of that one and put that bed floor in this one, weld it all up, and probably toss a bed liner in it to cover it up so no one sees it. Put bed liner coating over top of it first, with probably a couple drain holes so water doesn't lay in there, and then put the bed liner in it and call it good. I need to redo the rear of it because this has a roll pan on it that's not legal for PA state inspection. So I'm either going to put the crash bar behind it, which would make it legal, or put a regular rear bumper on it. And I don't know. I mean, it's a build in progress. So, but there's that. I mean, so that's kind of where the S10 and the S10 and the Firebird builds are at currently. That'll be coming up as I progress in this podcast. So I think that's gonna be everything for this episode 1 of the podcast. I'm not even sure what I'm going to be going over on the next one. As I said, I'm going to try to make it weekly, so I'm not sure what day. It just matters on my schedule and what's available, what's not for days of doing it. So next week it may come on a Monday. This week I'm going to try to get this to launch tomorrow, which is today's Friday, the 31st of July. So it's probably going to drop on August 1st. I'm not sure what time next week I'm going to record or upload. But as I said, I'm going to try to make this a weekly deal. Bare minimum, I'm going to try to make it bare minimum, I want to make it bi-weekly. So, but I'd like to make it just a weekly deal. I promise I am going to get better at this. It's just going to take experience and time in doing it and so on and so forth. I'd like to make up like a custom beginning and everything like that. But I want to get this kind of going first and see what it evolves into before I do all that. So, as I said, the first couple are probably going to be on YouTube only. I'm working on setting up all the podcast stuff so I can get it on like Apple and I guess wherever you get your normal podcasts from, the audio versions. So I'll be having the audio version and the video version up on my YouTube channel on Twisted Builds LLC. So if you guys have any recommendations, comments, hate this already, whatever, comment below, comment on the video, or send me a message or whatever. I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm going to get better, I promise. I'm going to give this one heck of a shot, and we'll go from there. I may see if I can get a guest on maybe for the next one, and we'll start talking maybe more builds and stuff, because that's what Twisted Builds was originally designed on. Me and a different buddy, his name is Darren Thurett, started Twisted Builds as actually an online forum. That online forums are dead, so it just failed and never really got off the ground. And from that came Twisted Builds LLC, because I'm into the oddball stuff. And the Firebird was always an oddball when I first started life. Yes, it was an LS swap. It was an LS swap running 2 different size junkyard turbos with decapped injectors, which that car made, I don't want to say famous, but it made it famous for the LS platform. Before I did it, I don't think anyone else had. So I was doing it on that car and sharing my research with the Slavic mechanics community, and apparently caught the eye of Matt Happel, and he started doing it as well, and it you know how things go. At that point, it just grew. So it's been all over the world at this point, which is phenomenal, because again, that was research I was doing out of my basement here in little hometown me. So but yeah, no, I was shocked about that. So, and again, the Firebird's always just been an oddball. So the first setup was an LS with 2 different size turbochargers from a junkyard. Then I wounded one turbo by probably overspinning it because I was hitting it with 22 pounds of boost. Killed, it was a Grand National turbo and a 73 Power Stroke turbo. So I killed the Grand National turbo and decided that I would put 2 73 Power Stroke turbos on it. That did not work well at all. After that, that's when I went with the regular run-of-the-mill GT3582 turbos, and those have been on it since, and those seem to work great. They're still a little slow to spool. I think it's setup, not turbo. I think it's the fact of I'm running a factory reman torque converter that stalls really, really low, and that's the majority of the issue. So, anyhow, that car's always been an oddball. So, and again, a twisted build. So that's where the whole deal came from. So this podcast, as I said, I wanted to talk about builds, talk about the business, current events, stuff going on in people's lives. I'm a family man. I've got a wife and a son who just got home. I told you guys so, and gals. They're upstairs right now. And we'll just talk about whatever comes up, and we'll go from there. So, all right, hey, thank you guys for watching and possibly listening to this first podcast. And if you're interested in becoming or coming on to the podcast and being a guest, reach out to me. Dale@twistedbuilds.com is my email, or find me on Facebook and message me there, or the business page, which is Twisted Builds LLC. Reach out, see if you want to come on as a guest. And again, comment, like, subscribe. Let me know if I'm doing something completely wrong or not. But I know I've probably ranted quite a bit. But all right, guys, I think we're gonna stop there. And hey, thank you guys for watching, and have a great one. Bye.